Yankees Angels with a little afternoon soiree at the stadium after the Aaron Judge performance last night and the 3-2 win. But, of course, the big story in New York right now is not even Aaron Rodgers and Calais Campbell. And Aaron Rodgers trying to recruit guys to play for the Jets, despite the fact that he'll be playing for San Francisco this year. It is the fact that Max Scherzer is a cheater. Max Scherzer is going to be suspended for 10 games, and he ain't going to win the appeal. And here's why. You cannot use rosin anywhere but on the mound, number one. Number two, when you mix isopropyl rubbing alcohol with the rosin, the aforementioned rosin, it makes it even stickier than when you mix it with sweat. He admitted to all of it. That's why he got kicked out of the game.
And no one knows more about sticky stuff than Craig Carton.
I've had it in both hands for the better part of my adult life, Evan Roberts. I am an expert on sticky stuff all over my 10 fingers. That is right. By the way, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good. So you can bitch and moan. Number two, let's just get a couple factual things right that no one on this radio station chooses to look into. Phil Cuzzy is not the, what do you call the guy that's in charge of the umpires?
Crew chief.
Yeah, Phil Cuzzy's not the crew chief of that umpire and crew. A guy named Bellino is.
Dan Bellino.
So the notion that Phil Cuzzy made the decision to throw him out of the game is also not accurate. Dan Bellino did, and it's Dan Bellino who said, it's the stickiest hand I've seen in the 3 years that we've been looking at guys' hands. Not Phil Cuzzy.
Phil Cuzzy was there. Phil Cuzzy was the first base umpire, and he was a part of the discussion with Max, Dan, and Buck.
Now, so number two, people that think that Major League Baseball has an agenda against Max Scherzer,
well, they do.
If I may,
they do.
If people that think that Major League Baseball has an agenda against Max Scherzer because he was the loudest voice in the room when they were renegotiating the collective bargaining agreement just over a year ago, they gave him 3 chances to use different gloves and to get the crap off his hands. He chose not to. And just to firm out one other thing, they are not having the glove flown to New York because he was not kicked out for having sticky stuff in the glove. It was specifically when they went to his hand in the 4th inning, before the 4th inning began, after telling him, get the crap off your hands, get the crap off the glove or give a new glove, which he did. He came out in the 4th inning, and his hand was even stickier than it was earlier in the game because by his own admission, he put alcohol on his hand. Alcohol combined with rosin is a far stickier substance than than rosin and sweat.
Right.
He admitted what he did.
Right.
And I think it sucks, but that's the way it goes.
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, MLB's offices can hate Max Scherzer while still enforcing the rules.
Absolutely right.
And so when you say they don't have an agenda against Max Scherzer, I could argue it's irrelevant. He deserves the suspension. But they do have an agenda against Max Scherzer. They don't like Max Scherzer. And they don't like Scott Boras. And I understand why, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even disagreeing with it, going back to the contentious negotiations from a year ago. But I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead, sir.
And I totally understand if after this exercise is done, you tell me it's irrelevant, but I want to present the facts of the people
And
because
I
the
will
people
give you
can
an
decide.
honest answer.
Why did Major League Baseball decide to crack down on sticky stuff 3 years ago?
Because they thought it was giving pitchers an unfair advantage over the hitters, correct?
The ball was moving at an inhuman kind of way. Okay? They like that the pitcher has better control. What they don't like is the spin rates going through the roof.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll accept
That's why
that.
they did it. It's all connected to the pitch clock. They want more action in baseball. More action in baseball means less swing and misses. They wanted to cut down on the sticky stuff because they thought the pitchers, rightfully so, was getting such an advantage in making the baseball move in a way that was abnormal, okay?
Yep.
That's why this ban has occurred.
Okay.
We all know that.
Yep.
That's the facts. Yesterday, Max Scherzer's spin rate was the same spin rate it's been all year long.
Okay.
There was no spike. The reason why the Mets were bothered by Joe Musgrove during that wild card game wasn't just the ear, it was the results.
Right.
His spin
He
rate
dominated.
was not the domination, because, yes, he did, but the spin rates were abnormal.
Okay.
The spin rates from yesterday's game was not abnormal.
Now, do the umpires have access to that during a game?
I'm not saying they do. They don't.
Okay, I was just
I'm
asking.
not blaming the umpires. I'm having a further discussion about this
Go ahead.
in terms of suspension and what we should do about this.
Yep.
If we look at those numbers, and I do think they're relevant, because the whole point of this is we don't want pitchers getting a crazy advantage. That's what this is all about. In fact, they're working on a substance that is sticky, that doesn't call the balls to move, but gives the pitchers the ability to hold it better, right?
Fair enough. Yeah,
That's what
I'm
we're
with
all.
you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's all about spin rate.
Okay.
If I'm telling you, and it's a fact, the spin rates had no abnormality to yesterday, then shouldn't that kind of change the way baseball looks at this and say, well, it wasn't cheating. There was no result to this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you have this, and I know you went to the site that prints it out every
Baseball
game.
Savant, yeah.
Yeah, so if there's tangible evidence that what he did not give him some kind of added benefit, even if he was seeking one, right?
Right.
But it didn't work. I think we both agree he still should have been kicked out, still should have been suspended. But now baseball has to look at the reality of if they're using rosin, whether it's with sweat, whether it's with alcohol, whatever it might be with, if it's not giving the pitcher this ridiculous edge that it was giving them when they used spider tack and those types of substances, that I'm with you 100%.
Because that's what this whole thing is about. And that's why it's important to know, well, why did this start 2.5 years ago? What was it about? It was about spin rate.
Yeah.
That's what it was about. So if we're looking at yesterday's game and we're looking at Max's starts and we see no noticeable change, then shouldn't that at least account into saying, should we suspend him or not? Because here's what I find funny about this whole thing. And I think you laid it out beautifully. You didn't say anything that was incorrect necessarily. Max Scherzer, I thought, was honest with what he said after the game. He made me feel, I'm going to be honest with you about this, though, very uncomfortable with the swearing on his kids.
You cannot.
I'm sorry. That's just.
And there's two things. Number one, you don't swear on your kids' lives. Number two, and I'm not saying this about Max necessarily, when a guy does it, I think he's lying.
Yeah,
I immediately think the guy's lying. I'm not saying he was, but here's, I think, what happened yesterday.
Right.
I think Max was honest, but I think it's his honesty that hung him.
Well, no, that's the point. So his honesty was, they told me to wipe it off. I did. There's an MLB official there watching.
Well, let me walk you through that, because I did ask about that.
That's what Max said, though.
Yeah, no. So there's a guy in every baseball stadium, real quick. He's called the GCM, and he's basically there to make sure the teams overall are following certain rules so there's no competitive advantage. Among those rules, for lack of any better example, are guys trying to steal signs using video equipment.
And by the way, before you continue, I read a great book by Evan Drellick about the sign stealing.
Yeah.
Some of these game officials have ignored the cheating that they've seen in the past. Doesn't mean they're doing it every day, but the LA Dodgers apparently were doing a great job of stealing signs. This is according to Evan Drellick, great reporter.
Yeah.
And the MLB game official was just chuckling along as it was happening.
So there's an official at every single game that's played, not just the Met Dodger game, every game that's played. His job is not actually to wait in the bathroom for a guy to come in and pour alcohol on his hands. Now, there may very well have happened to have been the GCM, the guy that baseball hires to just make sure the rules are being followed by both teams in every possible way, right? That was there. The guy was not stationed there. He wasn't there specifically to watch Max Scherzer clean his hands off. He might have just happened to have been there. I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Yeah, and look, even if he's watching, it doesn't really change anything.
Yeah.
He says, according to Max, even if we believe him, I washed my hands with alcohol. I then reapplied rosin and sweat. Now, I assume the sweat is from his brow because he was out there pitching, which makes perfect sense. Obviously, his hand is no longer sweating. He just ran in and cleaned it. So I assume he went to his brow, mixed it with the rosin. That doesn't necessarily exonerate him.
No.
Because if there's too much rosin, and we don't know how much rosin he applied, the umpires still have the ability, based on their discretion, to say, hey, that's too much, you're out of the game.
By the way, and I looked this up, the rule also states you're not allowed to apply the rosin to your hand anywhere but on the mound. That's actually a rule.
So then if he admitted he's doing it back there, that's breaking the rule.
Absolutely.
As stupid as we may think the rule is, and even as much as it didn't cause the thing that the rule is there for, he still broke the rule.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, the Mets win the game. They have a great road trip, I think you'd say, right?
Unbelievable.
Yep. Yeah, he's going to miss a start, maybe two. So that sucks for sure. But, you know, all this hullabaloo, whatever you want to call it, about how baseball got it wrong, the umpires are screwing him. if you go just based on the rules that are in place and you want to be a student of those rules, the umpires did everything right.
Yeah, based on
Max Scherzer's at fault.
I'm not blaming necessarily the umpires, but I am looking at this rule with a critical eye because this rule is simply there to cause spin rates to not get out of
Can I
whack.
ask you a question about that?
Go ahead.
And I'm not going to claim to understand spin rates
That's fine.
beyond the obvious, the rudimentary part of it. What if Max Scherzer this year was cheating in every single start?
He's being tested in every game, though.
Okay, but here's my question. Like, the spin rate theoretically wouldn't change if he's been doing that every start,
I
right?
agree with you, Craig, but he's being checked like everyone is more than ever. That's one of the point of emphasis baseball announced before this season started. They saw the spin rates going back up last year. It's a true story.
Yeah.
And that's why Major League Baseball said, hey, to the umpires.
Oh, so you're saying the spin rate that they came out with was normal for, like, anybody?
I'm talking about
Like what I'm
quoting?
what I'm saying, the thing you're quoting, just so I get it right.
Yes.
I'm not saying this is factual, but I'm asking. If Max was using an aggressive amount of this rosin and sweat and alcohol, whatever it was, right?
Right.
In every start this year, then the spin rate for him yesterday would not have been an aberration to any other start.
Correct. But two things to answer that. Number one, these guys are being checked every single game.
Okay.
So unless you think in his previous starts, the umpires have just failed to catch it, which I guess is possible. But remember, there was an order from Major League Baseball. This is from baseball, not the umpires. The umpires are following the orders, which is, hey, we want you to check them more. We want it to be more random.
Sure.
We want you to be tougher on it because we noticed late in 2022, the spin rates went back up again. We noticed it.
Okay.
We see it around baseball. The spin rates are back up. Pitchers must be using a different kind of tack to get the ball to move more. But that's what this is all about. And if we know that's what it's all about, that's the only thing baseball's going after. And by the way, I get it. Like, they don't want to see as many swing and misses as we've seen. Then shouldn't we factor in if spin rates are acting any different?
Yeah.
Buck Showalter's big point last year, and I defended him for this, was Joe Musgrove's baseball is moving in a way that's not normal for that start against the Mets. Why?
Right.
Why?
Now, so I would say this. So if that, and I have no argument with anything you said there, I think we're on the same page. You kick him out of the game.
Yeah.
When you do the report afterwards, if it has not effectively changed spin rate or control or speed or anything else, then maybe he doesn't get suspended.
100%. Having a day to think about this after the emotion of seeing
And
it
by
live.
the way, he got suspended because the collective bargaining agreement calls for an immediate 10-game suspension.
After
That's why.
giving myself a night to sleep on this, my emotional reaction of what are we doing? He's wrong. Max is wrong. If his hand is sticky, and I don't believe Dan Bellino's just lying about it, if his hand was the stickiest he's ever seen, he's got to throw him out of the game.
Yeah.
Like, it sucked in the moment. I was angry in the moment. I understand Max is pissed off. But if you're the umpire and you've been told by your bosses, hey, we got to be tough on this, and you're holding Max's hand, and again, I'm going to take Max Scherzer and Dan Bellino at their word. I'm not saying they're liars. And Dan Bellino's saying, I mean, my hands were basically sticking together for 3 innings.
According to Dan, 3 innings to get it off his own hands after touching it on Max's.
If that's true,
that's like what we don't do.
If that's true, and I don't think Bellino's a liar, he had no choice.
Right.
Now, I don't think Max is lying either, but if what he did, his whole system led to his hand being stickier, then, sorry, Max, you said I'm not an idiot? Well, maybe you are an idiot. Because how could you walk back to that mound? Like, seriously, bro, how could you walk back to that mound with a stickier hand and think no big deal?
Yes.
So you like to tell us you're not stupid, but if that's what you did, that's stupid.
Yeah. Listen, I don't think Bellino's lying. I know nothing about him, but that doesn't seem like something you'd make up. And he took him 3 innings to get it off his own fingers afterwards. But see, what Max Scherzer did, he's kind of played a bit of a semantical game. He was not using spider tack. Okay, great. That's awesome. He was using rosin that baseball provides. Okay, great. He may even had some head sweat, although he wasn't pitching at the time, obviously, that he put it in. But we've all worn hats. Yeah, you're still sweaty upstairs, although not on your hands, right? Yeah, he did use alcohol to get whatever was on his hands off his hands. And sure, a Major League Baseball official saw him do it. But it's what happened next.
Right.
And what happened next is he took the hand with alcohol on it and rubbed it in rosin, which made it stickier.
And if you know it's stickier,
and he
what do you think's going to happen? So I don't think Max was trying to cheat necessarily. And the results back that because he wasn't getting some kind of edge with his spin rate. But I also happen to believe I don't think Dan Bellino. We like to have this feeling that the umpire, it's the ump show. They just want to make a name for themselves. They just want to be talked about. I don't think that's the case all the time. I think the umpire probably didn't want to throw Max Scherzer out. I think he's feeling his hands saying, are you freaking kidding me?
By the way, I've never even
me?
heard the name Dan Bellino before this morning. I don't know who the guy is. But I looked into it only because everyone's yelling and screaming at this other guy that all you people seem to know, Phil Cuzzy, because he's been involved in, I guess, the other two ejections based on, sticky stuff and whatnot.
And he was involved in this injection, but he wasn't the main guy here.
Bellino's the guy that kicked him out, and he's the crew chief.
He's the crew chief, and he was the home plate umpire.
Right.
But as you remember, the home plate umpire and the first base umpire, Phil Cuzzy, was a part of the discussion.
Yeah, but it's Bellino's the one that actually put his hand on Max's and got the sticky stuff on his hand and was like, what are you doing? So it's just, Max Scherzer's wrong. Now, whether you want to accuse him of cheating or not, I don't care. Max Scherzer deserved to be kicked out of the game based on the rule.
Here's the thing about...
And deserves to be suspended.
Here's the thing about Max Scherzer, who I really want to love. I know a lot of you Met fans already love him like he's done something for this franchise. He hasn't, by the way. He, whatted the bed in a postseason game, but he's tough and he's fearless, so y'all love him. And again, I want to love him. I'm a Met fan, Craig. You think I want to hate Max Scherzer?
Of course not.
I don't hate Max Scherzer, but I'm going to call him out. So here's what I know about Max Scherzer in the year plus he's been here. Oh, I'm going to take advantage of that pitch clock. Ooh, I'm smarter than everybody else. And then it was spring training, no big deal. The pitch clock bit him in the ass, all right? Either you're going to take advantage of it or you're not. But if the clock hits 0, it's a pitch clock violation. Ooh, I'm going to take advantage of these rules. I'll use the rosin, I'll use this. But you didn't. You went out. Your hand was so freaking sticky, Dan Bellino was forced to throw you out. I'm all for you pushing the envelope. I'm all for you getting right to that line for any kind of competitive edge. I love that. But you can't cross the line. Because when you cross the line, it hurts the team. You're going to miss a start and a half, basically. You already did. You missed this start. You'll miss one start because 10 days you can finagle it. It's only one start. You're hurting the Mets because now the Mets, who have tested their pitching depth, are going to have to go deeper into their depth. So I'm all for you pushing the line, but be smarter. Stop effing up. Because, again, I know it was spring training with the pitch clock. You effed up when you thought you were smarter than everybody else.
Yep.
And you effed up here. And I want to love you. And I want to build a statue for you outside of Citi Field. But lately, all you've done is F up. Whether it's a postseason game or it's this. So you may have every Met fan loving you like you're a big tough guy. Do something. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's been over a year. What the hell has he done? What's he done? He had a couple of great starts in the middle of last year? Yep. Right, that's fantastic. He almost threw a perfect game in Milwaukee? Super. What'd he do when it mattered? Until he starts doing something when it matters, until he starts not getting suspended and getting knocked out of a game after 3 innings because he got his hand all sticky, he's starting to piss me off is my point. Really starting to piss me off.
877-337-6666. We're with you right up until Yankee pregame today. Yankees-Angels will wrap it up, and it's a nasty Nestor against Patrick Sandoval. I should mention Mets are in San Francisco tonight. You got Game 2 Rangers-Devils. You got Game 3 Sixers-Nets. We've got some Yankee tickets to give away. And, Evan, I have a piece of paper in my hand.
Yes.
And this piece of paper has something you requested yesterday. Oh. I have the numbers. I have the meats. I have the numbers from the other night when all the teams competed against one another. Whether it's Knicks Game 2, Rangers Devils Game 1, and the Yankee game.
And we have all the networks splits.
I've got all the networks.
Oh, this is good.
And I've got it for you coming up a little bit later on today, okay?
I cannot wait.
All right. Do you want a hint at all? Do you want like total audience between all the events or no?
Like when we do this, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll give it. I'll hold on to it.
Yeah, I want to break down.
Hold on to it for now.
No, I'm just telling you what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Obviously, we already know the Yankee number because the Yes Network tweeted about it. But that was not our interest, though. Our interest was mostly Knicks versus Rangers Devils. Obviously, I'd love to know the combined numbers of both. And then, the way it's broken down.
I got it by network. I got it by team. I got it all.
Let me just say this to my friend Thomas Jefferson Lugauer.
Yes.
You have, without question, earned Game 6 of this Knicks series. You earned it. I'm not just taking you because I feel bad for you anymore. I'm taking you because you did a kick-ass job as the producer of the #1 show in the afternoon. So congratulations, pal.
Thank you, my tribal chief.
Excuse me?
Oh, you should know that reference, Craig.
Excuse me?
Friday Night
Excuse me?
SmackDown.
Oh, yeah.
You know what Lukey just did?
What?
You know what he did?
No, I did.
He acknowledged me.
There you go.